How's it, Rob? Today we're going to be talking about Gareth Bale, of all players. But before we get too deep into that, I've got a trivia question for you, which is how many cup finals did Gareth Bale score in?
Three cup finals Gareth Bale scoring. Pretty sure he's got like a ridiculous record in the Champions League where he scores in every final he's been in the Champions League. It's something stupid. How many other finals has he been in? I want to go off the cuff five.
I can't believe that you've got 2 out of 2 trivia questions right now in a row, and both of them I thought were really tough, and now you've got this one correct as well. So you are right. Gareth Bale has scored in 5 cup finals. He scored 6 goals across 5 cup finals, which is insanity, to be honest.
Yeah.
A ridiculous record. So that leads me to the actual question for today, which is Gareth Bale underrated or overrated?
Gareth Bale is madly underrated in Spain. In Spain is what I'm gonna preface it. So I think I'd still probably say he's underrated globally, but I know in the UK there's a mad following for him, especially among Spurs fans and Welsh fans. Like they obviously are very happy with the fact that he's one of the best players to have played football, especially British players to have played football. But I think he's unfortunately got a really bad rap in Spain. I don't really understand why, to be honest. I don't understand why Madrid fans didn't really like him, because it wasn't a situation of like he came out was a bit of an arse on in media. Like the fans kind of turned on him first, and then he became an issue in the media. So, but yeah, I think overall I'd probably call him an underrated player.
Don't you think Gareth Bale's career could be kind of cut into two? The first half of his career, which predominantly was the Tottenham half, scoring 21 goals in a league season, and then maybe his first year, potentially second year at Real Madrid. But after that, the rest of his career kind of tapered off. The rest of his Real Madrid time, his loan at Tottenham, and then his time in the MLS.
Yeah, I think you definitely can. And again, I think this is where we've spoken about the concept of recency bias before. And I think this is where recency bias comes into it, where the end of his career was definitely a taper off. And the unfortunate thing is he tapered off before, Messi and Ronaldo. So it's like there was this idea, Messi, Ronaldo, Neymar, Bale, like these are the 4 best players in the world. I know before anyone comes at me, I know that Bale wasn't considered in that same category for a lot of his career, but there were definitely seasons when he was up there. And I think because, yeah, he definitely tapered off. But again, I think I don't think that's got to do too much with on the field, because on the field, I still felt like he came on, played for Madrid, played really well, scored in Champions League finals. I mean, during the time when he was getting lambasted by every Spanish media, he scored that ridiculous goal in the Champions League final. Like, he just came on and did it. That's what happened. So I guess technically you could, but I still think if he hadn't gone to Real Madrid, honestly, I don't think he would have tapered off as much. I think it was just very difficult for him to carry on, especially in the fans' eyes.
Yeah, I actually agree with you on the point about him going to Madrid and what happened with the fans. And even when Zinedine Zidane took over from Ancelotti at Real Madrid, that seems to be the turning point of his Madrid career. So for his overall career, at Tottenham, he had Harry Redknapp. He was a real arm around the shoulder kind of manager, and so is Ancelotti. As soon as he had maybe a Zidane, who's a bit harder on the players in the way of, whoever's playing the best or whenever you're playing, and if you're not playing well, get out of my squad kind of mentality, which there's merit to that. I won't say that's the wrong way to manage, but it's the wrong way to manage a player like Gareth Bale is kind of my opinion. I don't know if you agree with that.
Yeah, I do. I do agree. Well, I'm not 100% sure on that, because I agree in the sense that with what he was going through, I think he needed an arm around the shoulder. I think it's very difficult as any player to have the fan base on your back. It's never an enjoyable experience. I don't think any player ever excels having their own fan base on their back. It's, look at Granit Xhaka, for example, at Arsenal. Like his best seasons were when the Arsenal fans were backing him, and his worst seasons were when the Arsenal fans were having a go at him. It was just one of those. And I think Gareth Bale is the same. He was loved by the Spurs fans, and then went to Madrid. And in the first couple of seasons, he was loved by the Madrid fans, and then that relationship massively soured, and he just couldn't find the form. And I think when you have a player who has his own fans on his back, that's when you need to have a manager who's going to pull him aside, put an arm around him, kind of go, "Hey, mate, it's going to come back to you. It'll be good." And I don't think Zidane, as you said, is that kind of manager.
I want to talk a little bit about when he went back on loan to Tottenham. It's maybe a harsh question because, again, you haven't had an opportunity to see any data on it or whatever. But I'm just going to ask you, what do you remember of Gareth Bale going back on loan for Tottenham? Do you remember it being a successful period or anything you can remember about that?
I don't remember it being massive success. I think I want to say he got injured, but I might be just thinking about a different situation. But I want to say he got injured, and it really hampered the amount of starts that he got. I don't remember him starting too many games. I think that's why I think it was an injury reason. But I still remember him having flashes. I still remember him having those flashes of being the player he was when he left Spurs. So I don't think you can call it a success because I don't think he started as many games. And obviously, when you get a player in like Bale, you're expecting a trophy. It's the same thing with when Ronaldo went to Man United. You get that player in, you're expecting something big. And something big isn't finishing fourth. It's winning a FA Cup, winning a League Cup. Or even, to be honest, you could even have gone with challenging for the title. But I don't think they did any of that in that season.
Yeah, so what's super fascinating to me about that is I had the same memory of it as you did. He came there, he did bits, there were some flashes, but it wasn't the Gareth Bale of old. Having looked into the stats, Gareth Bale on that loan at Tottenham had either one goal or assist every 70 minutes he played during that loan, which is, I don't remember it being that good either, but the stats were clear that the player, Gareth Bale, the player, was still very much there when he went to Spurs. The reason they didn't make it permanent was because he was on something stupid like 500k or 600k euro a week at Real Madrid. Spurs could get nowhere near that in terms of the salary. So, and Bale wasn't going to leave that kind of money. It was just a hugely problematic period. Something you've spoken into, and I've waited patiently to touch on this, was the Ronaldo and Messi comparison. I want to hone in on the Ronaldo comparison for a second. I know you were careful not to draw comparison there, but I actually want to, because I think in recent history, Bale is the closest player we've seen to a Cristiano Ronaldo. And I more mean in terms of style of play. There's a winger with all the physical elements that Ronaldo brings, the height, the jumping, the pace, the shot power, ability to dribble past players, take a free kick, etc. So again, I'm not saying on an ability level as in they're the same, but as in terms of like, if you were to pick, I said to you, you have to pick the next Ronaldo in the last 10 years or someone who had the potential to be the next Ronaldo like-for-like player. I think Gareth Bale was the closest we've seen.
Yeah, I do tend to agree with you, just in terms of the raw physical attributes. He was tall, he was quick, he dribbled, and he still had that shot on him. He's not... I look at Ronaldo, and this is going to sound really ridiculous when you look at the player he is. But he's not the peak of technique. Like, for me, he's not like an utter technique player. When I say that, I'm talking about, your Neymars, your Messis, these guys who are quick dribblers, and that's what they do. Even when he was a dribbler at Man United, he still had a physical prowess that Neymar and Messi and those kind of quick dribblers and technique players you think about don't have. And Bale is of that same mold. It's a quick winger with a lot of pace and a lot of power and the ability to shoot. Like, those are the three things. And Ronaldo, obviously, I think the difference between the two, though, was just Ronaldo loves football. At the end of the day, he absolutely adores football. And obviously, every pro player has to love football in some way, shape, or form. But there's differing levels, And I think Gareth Bale, whether he always didn't love football as much, or whether he just fell out of love because of the Madrid situation, but when he was at Tottenham, you could kind of tell it was a guy who's not there for the love of football anymore. He's not there because he loves playing the game and he doesn't want to do anything else. He was there because he wasn't playing at Madrid. He wanted to figure out his next contract situation and he needed a game time. And that's what it boiled down to. And there's nothing wrong with that necessarily. But I think mentally, it puts you in a different position, especially with dedication and work ethic. And I think Ronaldo, more than anything, the one thing I will always say about Ronaldo that he's definitely better than any other player to ever have played the game is his determination to be the best. And I don't think you'll ever see that in another player to the level that we've seen with Ronaldo, where he went from being the player he was at Man United, where you could see there's a great player in there, to what he became, which is very different to how he started. You know, he shifted inside, he became a power player, a full power player, and all of that was just work ethic. That's what it came down to.
Yeah, that's really interesting. One last thing I just want to touch on with Bale, something when I was looking through the stats that I came across, was at the beginning of his career when he started as a left back, early days Tottenham, and I get kind of at Southampton a little bit. He was a left back and his stats reflected that, in terms he actually had really good interception stats, really good tackle stats per 90, etc. And the further on in his career he's got, the worse those stats have got. So even once he moved higher up the field, he actually, for a winger, still had phenomenally good interception and tackles per 90 for a forward player, and his pressing numbers were really good. Like I say, as his career's moved on, those stats have just dropped and dropped. And I'm not talking about once he reached 30 years old or 31, they dropped off. Way before that, pretty much from his first, second year in Madrid, they started to drop off quite dramatically. And I almost see a correlation. Maybe it's a fluke one rather than a factual one. But I see a correlation to what you're talking about. The more he fell out of love with the game and he was just doing it as a transactional thing, hey, I'm getting paid to do this, I know what to do, I'm doing it, the more he was actually, you know, he was just doing what he needed to get done rather than love for the game and working hard, except going that extra mile, right? When you love the game, you go that extra mile. So I don't know, maybe I'll round out the episode by saying, for you, what were the, if you had to put in a bullet point, what are the factors why Bale's career kind of ended in a bit of a whimper rather than the highs it should have?
Well, so I think, yeah, like you said, it ended in a whimper. One thing I will state is I still think he is one of, if not the best British player to ever come, to be honest. He was fantastic. But I think the reason why he potentially won't be remembered as that, or, yeah, like you said, why it's gone out with a whimper, is first things first, is that fan pressure. I think that ruined his love of the game. I think it ruined his work ethic. You don't want to work for any manager, boss, in any situation in life or in any team that don't support you. I don't think that he had that support in Spain. I think he had the wrong managers at the wrong times. In his peak, he had a manager that either didn't trust him to start, didn't want him to start, or just wanted to get rid of him, when realistically Gareth Bale was still one of the best wingers in the world, and he showed that every single time he came on from the bench. And I think beyond everything, I think it was just a falling out of love with the game. I think he lost the dedication to the extent that he had it, you know, when he first became a winger. He obviously had to work very hard to become a winger. And I think you saw that work ethic not disappear, but it definitely dipped in the way he approached the game. And you could see that in his off-field antics more so than you could see that in his on-field performances.
Cool. Guys, this has been our Football Unspoken rating of Gareth Bale's career. Was he underrated or overrated? Let us know in the comments below. I'd love to hear from you. Until next time, this has been Football Unspoken.